Hey everybody, good afternoon. This is 12 Minute Trading. My name is Doc Severson. I'm joined here with Dave Lukas. Today is the 3rd of February in 2025, and oh my gosh, this year just continues to amaze. It seems like every Monday we come along to another market disaster coming along. Last week it was the DeepSeek issue, which freaked out everybody. Oh no, are we spending too much for AI? Can this little Chinese companies spend $6 million and compete with the big boys? The answer is probably no. And then over this weekend, we had the tariff scare. So far, it's turning out to be a nothing burger. It's exactly what we would have expected it to be, just a negotiation topic, because all of a sudden everybody's scrambling to come up to the table now and not deal with tariffs. So, Dave, what are you seeing out there, man?
It's funny, yeah. I made a pre-market note out to my students this morning and just made the joke that yesterday was Groundhog Day, and it feels like that in the markets week over week right now, Monday to Monday. Um, so over the weekend, Trump, I mean, it's no, what surprised me actually was last Friday because there was that fake report that came out that basically said that the tariffs were going to be postponed a month, and market was rallying. And then Trump came out and said, no, the tariffs are still on as planned to go into effect Saturday. And then the market sold off. But here's the thing. The market had already known and priced in up into that point, even that day, that these tariffs were going to go into effect. So the reaction Friday was a little bit of a knee jerk. And then over the weekend, it was funny just watching people get hysterical, like on Twitter and everywhere, about how it's like the end of the world to put tariffs on and all this stuff. And we've been through this before. He did this last time, and the markets had an initial reaction each time, and then what they do, they went higher. So like coming into today, I was looking at this going, there's no way that these countries, Mexico and Canada, can withstand letting this go. And the reason being is 60, 70% of their exports come to the US. Conversely, only like 10, 15, maybe up to 20% at the most, US exports go to those countries. So the US is in the power position, and Trump knows it. And so what did we get for, about mid-morning today, which, took us off the lows? Mexico relented. They're sending 10,000 troops to the border, and Trump agreed to not institute the tariffs for another month. And they're going to work on, the different aspects of this as well as improve trade. And he had said that when he did the USMCA, that he had put in a clause that he could renegotiate it in 6 years, right? So that was like step one of improving trade relations and getting to more of a balanced trade. Because I think this is important for anybody watching and stuff, regardless if you like Trump or not, right? Like the United States does not have a free trade. Like you hear free trade, free trade. Like Canada taxes has a 270% tariff on any milk that we send to their country from the US. That is not a free trade. Okay. Free trade would be we have no tariffs, they have no tariffs. And so where Trump, I think, is trying to get is not to a complete free trade. I don't think that's going to be possible, but these things need to get more in line, right? And his whole, kind of argument is that we're effectively losing, hundreds of billions of dollars to, maybe a trillion plus or whatever when you look across the whole world every year, to this. And, he wants to make it fair. Okay, good. Looking out for America and that sort of thing, right? So we've got Mexico that's relented. Now, in about a half an hour, Trump and Trudeau are supposed to connect again. They talked this morning, and they're supposed to talk again. So we may have more news by the end of the day, which will either send this market really up. We're flirting with going positive now. In fact, the Dow went positive, and maybe they're or not. Maybe it sells off some. But all I can say is we've been talking for the last few weeks about this weekly energy, and how we've been going sideways since December, really in a range. And we've got fully charged weekly energy. We got daily charts that are charged back up now. And, we expected this to go higher. And guess what? If this gets resolved in the next day or so and China's now coming to the table, China wants to talk about how they can, work with us to have a better trade arrangement. That came out today. So I could just see this thing just releasing to the upside and going bonkers, to the upside. So
Well,
there's just,
that
yeah,
would definitely make sense. We have not lost trend.
nope,
Uh,
we're holding the key levels on
yeah,
just about every chart. So yeah,
and it's always these things that create these sort of slingshot moves
slingshot.
where you get the negativity off the charts. My goodness, like crypto, Bitcoin has dropped over the weekend has dropped 15% to the lows. 15% just over the weekend, and it's in position where it's going to reclaim that. I'd say maybe by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the volatility is just off the charts right now, and I think once the market starts to absorb this and starts to get used to that, because quite honestly, we had a very sleepy market over the last couple of years. Once we got through with
Mhm.
the 2022 bear, it's been sort of just sort of grinding higher as the inflation, soft bounce came into play. But,
Yep.
it's since July, it's been very rocky. So, we could get that final, Dave and I keep talking about that final push to the upside
The
before,
parabolic tail is how
yeah.
you see the end of these bull markets go. They typically do not, you don't see them crash from like going sideways for 2 months like this. That's typically not what you see. This is like building a base, for the last couple months to launch off of, right? And you get the bear, you get the nastiest moves. And remember, most of the gains happen towards the end of a bull market. But you get the nastiest moves off complete euphoria and parabolic tail where like everybody's in. And, we're just not there, right? We're just not there yet. So, and you can kind of show that on the charts as you pull up, but this is just that chop, and the market's, sniffing out. Remember, it trades on the future, it trades on earnings in the future. That's the underpinning of the markets, and it's just sniffing out what things are going to look like, right? And the Mexico, doing what it did today was a huge boon to this, and I think Canada's going to come along too.
What I want to show you guys briefly is what occurs on a secular basis. These are called secular moves. So during the 30s and then into the 40s, we had uh, back here we had a very sideways. This was sort of a secular bear because the country at that point was trying to figure out like what can we do, and we had this whole issue with obviously the war. And then as we exited the war, and this happened right around the early 50s or so, it became quite obvious that we were the dominant economy. And so what followed after this was a secular bull market. So this secular bull market started in the 50s, and then it got up into, I'd say, around the 1960s, or let's say 1970 or so. And if any of you were around during the 70s, you know that everything kind of ground to a halt. And so this was the next secular bear that we ran into, was really in this period of time here. And then as we got into obviously this, we had one little bear with Reagan here as he took over. But after that, all of a sudden, everything that he put into place took off. And you guys will recognize this one this also dovetailed into the 90s, where all of a sudden the internet really took off in 95, the promise of the internet. So that was the next secular bull market. Started really around 82 and went all the way up to 2000. And then you guys will recognize this one. This was the back-to-back bear markets that we had not only in 2000 but also 2008. And then we broke out of that. And this is probably 2013 or so that we broke out of that. And we've been in this ever since. We've been in this secular bull ever since that point. And so it's not that we're sitting here going, hey, this has got to die. It's just that we're looking for these continued markets that just continue to go sky high into the end. And you can make a tremendous amount of money in the very last death rattle of a bull market, especially a secular market like that. And eventually, I think we're going to get into a period of time where, for various reasons that we've talked about, where it's just that we're going to have to handle this debt issue. This $37 trillion is just going to be a ball and chain, and it could lead into the next secular bear, which will be fine because, as we've showed, we can trade secular bears. They're just a lot more volatile. But what Dave was
Well,
talking about here was just the amount of, on a short term basis, the amount of potential energy that we have for the next trend is off the charts right now. So we keep looking for that. And the resolution should be with the trend. It should be a reversion to the mean back to the upside.
yeah, and that's what we keep, I know it seems like it can take a while for these things to unfold on a weekly chart. We're going through, we could have another daily swing. This could be a daily swing lower for a
Mm-hmm.
little bit before it resolves itself. I don't think so though. I think, if we get some good news today, I think the rest of this week this thing starts taking off. And we've got some pretty big earnings. Amazon will probably do pretty good on earnings. Google will probably be all right. Palantir is going to be interesting even tonight. I think Palantir is becoming um, that's one to really watch when it comes to the AI world because as we saw with DeepSeek and all of that, like yeah, look at it go. The base of this stuff, right? The underpinning of it, the models, the LLMs and stuff behind the scenes, you're going to start to see more and more of them come out like DeepSeek and stuff and more parity with that. It's going to be that middle layer that like bridges the gap with softwares and everything else, which is where Palantir plays. That is really, I think, going to explode. It's kind of like how Salesforce nailed the CRM software game at the time that they did, type thing. So that's why I think Palantir is one to start watching. I think it's going to become more of one, kind of like how NVIDIA was the last few years. I think Palantir may start to take over and be one that they watch the earnings on and that sort of thing. And look at its energy. Its weekly energy is like crazy charged up, and earnings tonight could kick off another weekly swing. This thing could be over 100 really fast. So,
It's interesting, Dave. We get used to when we have pullbacks like this, like that we had back here at the beginning of the year. One of the things that I had said was, yeah, I want to get into Palantir. I want to get into Palantir. And then, it runs away like this. And so you never want to buy up here at this point. You want to wait for the pullback.
yeah,
And so the pullback shows
right.
up. And what did I do? I sold at 55. I
Hmm.
sold puts at 50. And now looking
Ran
at
away
this,
from it.
it's like it's running away. I mean, I made a nice little pile, but nowhere near as much as if I just like bought the stock. So,
Yeah.
you know, don't be afraid if you've got something that you really, really want to get. Don't be afraid to, don't go too far out of the money on these things. Go ahead and stand in there on the price that you're willing to pay.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I was a little bit conservative here at 50 and 55, but that's kind of what I found with the SPACs. When I went through the SPAC craze back in 21, I sold
Mhm.
puts like crazy on that stuff, and I could have made a lot more money just buying the stock during that
Buy
point.
'em. Well, not to change the subject too much off this, I just wanted to point that out because I think their earnings will be interesting tonight. But the bigger picture I think is important. You guys know I like to look at the macro and everything. And I do think to your point about 37 trillion in debt, like it's over if we stay the course, guys. I mean, it literally is over. The system will ultimately collapse on itself at some point, right? And so what Trump is doing, it looks like, and this is kind of interesting because it's really big in the course of history if this is what is going on. This looks to be could be the beginning of a true paradigm shift from economic systems. Like the current system is based all on debt. I don't know if anybody knows this, but if we paid back, if like all money in circulation was, or like all debts were paid back, right? Right now, like so the world, everybody across the world paid back all their debts, right? There would be no money in circulation. all money is debt. Okay. So like the whole system is built on growing debt, right? Which is why we're where we're at. And so if we really do change a paradigm to where all of a sudden tariffs are put on that start generating revenue back to the US, and we rehome a lot of the productivity, like the manufacturing and everything else, which I don't know if anybody saw, but two of the biggest companies in Canada over the weekend said they're moving operations to the United States to make things here so they can sell here and avoid issues. So like if we get all this flooding in, right, which is part of the plan and the goal, you get to a point where our productivity, because that's what really gets you growth, it's not debt. You can't like our GDP the last few years has been propped up by $2 trillion deficits, right? And just government spending. And now we're seeing like if you watch what Elon Musk is putting out every day, like of what they're finding, they're going through the treasury payments and looking at what's being paid to who. Like the millions and billions of dollars that's just being wasted and thrown to cronies and just thrown at like it literally laundered, through these like USAID and all this other stuff that's happening. Like all that's going to stop, right? And so the next phase of this is if we get everything to come back, we lower taxes, right? We get productivity off the roof. All of a sudden, yeah, Musk says he's going to be at $4 billion a day. That's a trillion a year in cuts. Maybe he gets to 2 trillion in cuts. Like you start where our company of the United States is producing $7, $8 trillion a year in tax revenue, and we're spending 4 or 5. You start paying down that debt. That's a total change. You don't need debt anymore if you do that.
Well, he's
And
also talking about getting
that's a
inflation.
major economic upheaval. Like it's good, but it is something that I think we're going to have to navigate. Now, again, this is thinking big picture, years, takes years to do this stuff, but it's happening very fast so far with what's going on.
He's
So
also
it's something
talking
to pay
about getting
attention to.
inflation down to zero.
Well, you wouldn't have any inflation.
Right.
You wouldn't have a need for the Fed, honestly.
Yeah, it's true.
You
Do it
wouldn't at
off the
that point.
bond market, right?
Right. I mean, like so it's that's what I'm saying. We could be at the beginning of a real true economic paradigm shift. And these things happen in cycles like it's every couple hundred or more years that you see these big changes. And so, and it's possible, and or it just could kind of peter out where it's at, and things are a little bit better, and that's cool. But I'd watch this stuff, guys. I'd stay on top of it because it really is um, pretty incredible if we start to make those, if we start seeing the fact that we don't need income tax anymore, things like that, because we're making so much off the productivity and everything else. That is a whole different world, right? So, and that looks to be kind of the plan. I don't think the income tax is going to go away, but if it's reduced by a significant amount, corporate tax is reduced by a significant amount, and companies come flooding in here, I mean, different world,
All of a
right?
sudden, we have so
Changes
much
everything.
more investment because everybody wants a part of this.
Yeah.
And then, people are accumulating dollars again. So we're
Yeah.
going to have to be
Well,
careful
and
with that.
and guys, this isn't rocket science. It honestly isn't. Like, if you give people the incentive to do well and make it easy for them to do well, they're going to flock to it. You would. Anybody watching? Like, if I said, "Hey, look, here's a trade that if you just do it every single day, you're gonna make $2 for every $1 you put in. You just have to do it over and over again consistently, right?" You would do it, right? Every single day and keep doing it. It's a sure thing that way. Well, if our corporate taxes go to 10%, or whatever it is, it all of a sudden it's a sure thing for that, right? So that's what we have to watch. And that's where there'll be some, interruptions and things that happen with how the economic system works. But I think overall it's positive in the end if this course stays. It really, like I said, it's a paradigm shift. So, anyways, not to get too pie in the sky marketing here or with big big market and big economic things, but that's something to watch.
Hey, Dave, your
Ah,
favorite moving average was tested today.
it was tested today, and look at that, we bounced right off of that thing. I still say 5,800 is the big back there where it kind of came down to it back there at 5,800, that last low. That's still my drop dead for this thing. If it breaches that, I think you are off to the races there. But But yeah, it's holding well, and Nasdaq's holding pretty well, although it did not go along with the S&P to new highs and stuff, right? It has not hit new highs. And I'll tell you, if you look at that weekly energy on that thing, you're looking at a 3,000 point move coming in the Nasdaq.
Look at this. We have
We've seen it before so many
increasing
times.
momentum on the Dow.
It's at 82. Look at that.
What's it now?
The Dow, look at that. It's at the energy line. It's like 82. Or is that the stochastic? It's not the energy line, is it?
No, yeah, that's a
I
stochastic.
have to put the energies up. Um but yeah, the I mean the Dow is positive,
The
Look at
Dow's
the
got all kinds of energy, and
look at that. Look at the Nasdaq though. The weekly chart on the Nasdaq is just crazy for the energy. The NDX.
look at that. There's so many candles in the same area. It's just like it
No.
looks like a marker.
Look at that, 67 on like that. If you look at that over the last however many years, it's like the second or third highest charged on record for the
The beginning of 22, right
yeah,
before
look at
the
that. All the
double.
way back to 22 before you're there. I mean, and look at the move that came off that. How many points was that?
The move that came off that 16,000, the initial move went down to 13,000.
So 3,000 points, right? So that's what I
Yeah.
said. You're looking at like a 3,000 point move on the Nasdaq. Again, either way, we're biasing, I would say, to the upside right now, but um I mean, imagine 3,000 points tacked on the Nasdaq could be at 24, 25,000 from here.
Look at this hammer on Bitcoin. That's a
Yeah,
4% move today, and just
crazy.
today it's 10,000 points off of the bottom.
Well, you
Um,
know what the Bitcoin move was, honestly, over the weekend, guys? It's all about liquidity. Everybody was getting liquidity to be able to cover and do things here on Monday if things got out of hand. And now they're all just piling back into
yeah,
it.
Bitcoin ends up being a hedge. It was the negative hedge that they're all
Yep.
unwinding from today.
Yep.
Because that's the thing. One of the things that we are going to see, I am convinced in the next couple of years, is that we're going to be eventually 24/7 trading.
Oh yeah.
So
I agree
we
with you.
have to. We have to. Crypto has been like this for the better part of a decade. I mean, crypto actually since day one has been 24/7. It's just that,
Hmm.
getting all the centralized exchanges to stay open through this. But it's as long as I've been involved with it back in 2017, it's been 24/7. And we're starting to see this now with zero DTE in the market. And we're starting
Yeah.
to see a little bit more extended trading on stocks and everything, but it's going to be stocks, options, 24/7. Say goodbye to your weekend, but I don't think most of this. I think the initial the fact that you have to sit there all weekend and just eat it on a position and you can't do anything about it,
Yeah.
is unreasonable.
Yeah.
So this is why
Yeah,
we do.
I think that's true, but I also think that like it'll be interesting to watch if they go to that because it's going to follow the patterns of human nature, right? So everybody's out on the weekends, you're going to have low volume, so you'll have like these kind of crazy moves and stuff, right? It'll be, it'll be a different world and definitely at that point, guys. I mean, Doc and I have done a lot of investigating with like trying to like look at how we can put AI agents to trade our strategies and manage them. You're gonna have to go static risk for sure. Like the days of like trying to manage or move trades around and stuff like that in an environment like that, it's got to be like just cut and dry. Like you enter and your exit here, if you hit like a static risk exit, you're out. And you just set up the new trade and you just keep doing it. Like that's how it's gonna go. Now we see we got a few questions here. One on Ethereum. It was getting
Yeah,
whacked. It was down like
Ethereum's getting
25%, wasn't it?
Ethereum's not keeping up with everything else. And you're seeing at the same time Solana's up 5%. So I don't know. I think that we
Hmm.
could be seeing the flippening happening
Yep.
with Solana and Ethereum. So let's see. Index put and call. I'm not seeing that bad of a
Put call
value on it.
ratio.
Yeah, let's see if its equity put call is any different. Yeah, I mean, not really maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing here, Brian, but it's relatively low since 2020. Let's go look at this on a monthly chart. Yeah, I mean we had lower values at yeah, back here. You're right. You know, it's one of those things like put call ratio as well as I'm sorry, I'm not showing this over here. So put call ratios are kind of like stochastics to me. They can remain low for a long period of time, whereas when you have very, very high values, like what we did at the end of 22 and those kind of things, those are unsustainable. So the spikes are unsustainable, but when it's low, it can stay low for quite a
But that's
long.
bullish when it's low.
Um, yes and no. It can be a contrarian. I think this is where Brian is going. It can be a contrarian figure, but it's definitely much more of a contrarian figure when it spikes to the upside. So that these are the bearish signals that we've had here. Like you can see, this is a 2020 number. Here's right at the end of 2019 was the number, 2016, all of these. So these are unsustainable spikes, and these are much better contrarian signals. However,
You may
something.
not be, hey, you may not be showing your screen. I was looking for it. I'm not seeing it. I just know typically when the put call ratio is low, that means a lot more calls are being bought than puts. So people are betting on markets to go higher. So if we have the lowest since March 2020, that lines up with having a fully charged weekly chart and a move to the upside more than anything is what that tells me.
Hmm, yeah, it looked like I was sending that out. I'm not sure why, but
Try
yeah.
again. Try
Anyway,
again, see what pops up there. There it is.
yeah, it must be. I think it's on a delay. It's a little bit of a delay. So yeah, usually Brian, we're looking at put call ratios, kind of like a contrarian, but the high values are much more contrarian. They're better
Hmm.
signals than the low values are. So just like stochastics, right? When something's overbought, it can remain overbought for a long, long, long period of time. Whereas when something's like super oversold, especially like an RSI of 30 or
Yeah.
McClellan oscillator like that, usually you get those spiky behaviors and you get the mean reversion from it. So, any other questions? We're coming up near the end of our time here today, and I'm going to take one last look
Yeah,
around.
throw you can throw Ethereum up there.
Yeah, I did have Ethereum up here a minute ago. Let's see if I can. So here's Ethereum on the daily chart, and a pretty good hammer here, but just it's not keeping up. It's not a growing hammer. So I am concerned about Ethereum right now. I am concerned with Ethereum. It's just this is actually the first crypto that I bought back in 2017. I got it like $250, and it's long gone. It helped me buy a truck. So, but it's just not keeping up right now. Now, I don't think alt season. So for those of you that are like into alts and stuff like that, I don't think this is time yet. Let the heavies, let the heavy market caps kind of break out, and then when they get tired, that will be the time for some of these other, the Pepe
Hmm.
and the Dogecoin and stuff like that. That will happen. So,
But
oh
but all in all, guys, how we close today is important, right? So we still, you still got another hour or so to go. But if we continue higher and if we close positive, I think that's obviously a really great sign that these levels have held and that, the market is more on solid footing. And then it probably starts looking at earnings and everything from here. I think again, I don't know if the news on the call or the meeting with Trudeau will come out before market close. But we'll see on that. It'll certainly come out after, though, and we'll know.
yeah, somebody was saying I mentioned this earlier. Let's in the trading room this morning, and I said we've got really bad internals
Mm.
in terms of the advancers minus decliners, and then what we saw was right around 10:30. This had a major view. Now I don't know what's wrong with this thing now. It seems to be
That was when the Mexico news came out.
seemed to have lost the. No, it looks like it's back again. So yeah, that's when the Mexico news came out. So we had a significant reversal in terms of that, and we also saw that reversal in the just in the futures intraday here. So this is something that we watch intraday, like boom. And
Yeah.
this is one of the most useful things that we put up on our chart every day, which is the anchored VWAP. This pink line here kind of represents the delineation between the bulls and the bears. So once we're above that and accumulating, this thing was off and running. So let's see where we are today. We're almost to the point of closing this gap today. So pretty impressive move today. Okay, guys. Well, I think we are set for another week here at 12-minute trading. So want to appreciate thank you guys for joining us here today.
Yeah, so guys, just get ready for I think by the end of this week, things really start to move and resolve themselves with these energies one way or the other. So be a little bit patient. Let this thing start the trend and really start going. If we take out the S&P takes out the highs, I think we got a pretty, and energy's going with it. I think we got a pretty good release higher. If we obviously that to me that 5,800 level is kind of the key level, that last low there. If that's taken out, then it's going the other way. Again, we got to give a little bit of credence to the upside. Hey, make sure if you guys haven't done so, check it out. We've got our newsletter and everything on our website that we do. We're getting back on that. I've been a little lax getting things out on that the last few weeks. We've been pretty busy with stuff, but we're getting back on our weekly newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for that, do that. And if you haven't taken advantage, we do have a free trial of both Doc and I's services right on the homepage of the website. So if you've never tried us out or seen what we're doing, check it out. We'd love to see you in there and get your feedback and stuff. So thanks for tuning in, though, and we'll see you next week. See you next Monday.
Okay, see you guys, and be prepared for next weekend where the next crash comes along. You guys take care. Have a good week. Bye now.